this lesson, we'll cover creating details. So everything we've done in previous exercises, we've actually added content, components, systems to our full model. But what about the finer elements? What about the details of these elements that we've created? How do we go about creating those? In Revit, we can create details in a couple different ways. One is we can create what's called a drafting view, what you're looking at on the screen right now. A drafting view is just what it sounds like. It's a drafting view. Basically, you draft the elements within the view. So if I'm looking at this view right now and I start to mouse over the different lines, I can see it says these are detail lines, meaning someone drew this. It's actually drafted or detailed. So that's one manner. Another way is to basically crop a section, elevation, or plan view to produce a detail of a zoomed-in area. For example, in the project browser in the lower left, let's scroll to the Sections area, then Mechanical, and then double-click on Callout of Section 4. This will open up what we could call a detail view as well. However, all this is a section view that's cropped, and I can see the crop box around it. So if I zoom out a little bit, pan it to the center of your screen, and then on the bottom of your view window, if I go over the Do Not Crop view box and actually select it, turning off the crop, you'll actually see that this is part of an actual section view of the building. And if I zoom out more, I can see the entire building section based on where that section line was produced. You still can see the rectangular crop because the crop is visible. To turn the crop back on, I can just go over Crop View, click Crop View, and then I'll crop the view again, basically hiding everything outside the crop box. The crop box can actually be changed. Just by selecting it, you have your drag handles to control the actual size of the actual box being cropped. The dashed line is for cropping annotation. So if annotation comes outside the solid box, it'll go up to the dash box and then be cropped. So this is another example of how to actually create this type of view. In this manner here, it's just a matter of creating an actual view, section view, elevation view, turning on the crop, and then adjusting the crop box. Let's go ahead and close this view. Just click the X in the upper right. Now the view we're currently looking at, if you scroll down in your project browser, it's called a drafting view, and it's underneath the actual drafting view detail area in the project browser. This one's called Vent Through Roof. However, there's another one, Condensate Drain. Go ahead and click that one. So when you double click that one, it opens up another drafting view. This drafting view here has detail. Again, I can mouse over and I can see lines are created, but also drafting detail items are able to be added to as well. So I see this is an AISC pipe shape. On the right, I have a section cut of that same pipe. But again, I still have lines. So not only are we drafting, but we're actually pulling from a library of different type of drafting details that we've saved that we can use over and over. This type of view, again, is called a drafting view. To add a new drafting view, what you do is go to the View tab on your ribbon. Then on the Create area of the ribbon, click Drafting View. It'll ask you then, what do you want to name this drafting view or detail view? You can name it whatever you choose. What is the default scale that you want to set this at? Right now, I'm just going to leave this as a name of Drafting 1 with a scale of 1 to 10. Click OK. This will then basically create a blank canvas. It's basically just a drafting view. Now what you do at this point is you start to draft all of the tools in order to draw lines and or insert your drafting detail located on the Annotate tab. The Annotate tab is full of the controls allowing you to produce that drafting view. So as a review, in this lesson, we talked about creating details. We talked about creating the finer areas and the finite elements, showing the detail of the components systems that you've added in MEP. We looked at two different methods. One, to create an elevation or section or plan view and simply crop it, and then zoom in on that crop area, creating that detail. Another way we looked at was creating a drafting view, where you actually draft elements, lines, circles, arcs. Basically, you draw the detail, or you can insert detail that you've already saved in a library. In this lesson, we'll cover adding detail for drafting views. So currently we're looking at a drafting view. This drafting view contains detail lines and detail components to be inserted into the view. So how do we go about adding this detail to this drafting view? Well, first you want to create a detail drafting view. To do that, you would do it from the View menu. So on the View menu on the ribbon, in the Create panel to the right is a command for drafting view. This would create a new drafting view. Now, I'm not going to click it though, because we're going to just use the current drafting view to draw within. If you have created the drafting view, simply just close it and you'll be back to this current drafting view. Now on this drafting view, I'm just going to pan it to the left because we're just going to really redraw the elevation view over to the right. So to draw our lines or detail, all of the tools to do that are on the Annotate tab. So click on the Annotate tab on the ribbon. Here you have the detail tools for creating different line types, shaded regions, inserting components, even markups. You have a text area, dimension area, and even a tag area. For this lesson though, we're going to focus just on the detail area. So let's first create detail lines. So click the Detail Line tool. And once you do that, the first thing you should set is the line style all the way on the right. So on the right side of the ribbon, click the drop down for line style, scroll to the top, and let's choose the line style 51. In the draw area, just verify that the single line tool is selected. And now we're really ready to start drafting. So I'm just going to click a point and start dragging the line. For this exercise, it doesn't really matter the actual dimensions as long as it looks similar to the actual drawing on the left. And I'm just going to drag my mouse, click a point, and what you'll notice is you're drawing segments. Line command keeps going. On the end the segment, just hit escape. You stay within the line command, but again, the segment stops. Now I can start to draw another line just by clicking points, and again, hit escape once to end the segment. And I can continue to draw. In this case, just drafting different elements. And I'm just going to basically draw and kind of recreate what I see on the left. And I can even switch tools as well. So right now I'm using the line command to create these lines. I can also switch to the arc tool. Without stopping the command, now I can actually create an arc within the actual series of lines, and then go back to the line tool to finish the actual layout for what I'm creating. Now, once you are done creating your detail, hitting the escape key once ends the line segments, but stays within the line command. However, if you choose to deselect the chain option on the options menu, this would only draw segment to segment to segment. It wouldn't be continuously changed, so you wouldn't have to hit the escape key. Option is yours though. But when you're done with the command, you can hit the escape key twice or just click modify in the upper left. Now the two circles that represent a piped section, if you mouse over those on the left, you'll actually see it is a detail item, but it's a section. This is something that wasn't drawn, but inserted from a library. So to insert this detail component, let's go to the Annotate tab again. On the Detail panel, you'll see an option for Component. Click the drop-down and choose Detail Component. This will load in the left in the property area all of the details that are currently loaded into this project. Let's select the first one, which is a section view of the pipe. Now, if you didn't have the detail that you want, you could always click Load Family on the right side of the ribbon and load in the detail element from your library or a standard detail from the Revit library. Now it's just a matter of placing this element that you loaded in to the exact location to where you want it. And then once you're done, I can hit the escape key twice or click modify. And that was an example of how to insert in a detail component. Now the last piece is the text that's sitting on the bottom, elevation. Well, in the text panel on the annotation tab, I'm simply going to click text. Now when I'm drawing my text, the first thing I would want to do is pick my text style. That's defined in the properties on the left. For this, I'm just going to choose 1/4 inch Arial. And then I could set my format of how I want my text aligned, how I want it justified. And once I have all of that set, it's just a matter of clicking a point and then typing in what you want your text to say. In this case, I'm typing in elevation. And here, if you wanted to edit the text, you can simply select it and then choose different format options on the actual ribbon. When you're done, Simply click Modify, and it places the text in your detail view. So as a review, what we covered in this lesson was adding detail to drafting views. We looked at the different ways to create detail. One, by drawing lines. Using the Detail Line tool, we were able to draw straight lines, curved lines, even circles. We also looked at entering in or loading in detail components from a library, such as a section of a pipe. And lastly, we looked at creating text from within our detail view. In this lesson, we'll cover annotating detail views. So annotation within a detail view could be text or it could be dimensions, for example. Detail view we have on our screen has text and dimensions on the left detail, but doesn't have any on the right detail. So let's add some annotation, text and dimensions, if you will, to the view on the right. To do that, let's go to the Annotate tab. Once on the Annotate tab, the Dimension panel is on the left. Here, we can add various dimensions by clicking points or lines and then placing our dimension. So for example, we can use the Linear Dimension tool to dimension linear lines or lengths. I'm just going to click Linear, and then just like you normally would dimension in Revit in the building model, for example, you do the same thing here. I'm going to click a point, click another point, and simply drag my dimension and then click again to place it. The dimension tools are on the right side of the ribbon now. I can also click a line and do the same thing, but this time by selecting lines. So I can choose a line, choose another line, and this dimension aligns with the lines that you selected. And again, left click to place. You can also do radial dimensions, diameter dimensions, arc dimensions, even angular dimensions, and also, depending upon what you're drawing, other types. And when you're done with the dimension tool, simply click Modify. Now, if you want to add text on the Annotation tab in the Text panel, we have an option for text. Go ahead and click Text. The first thing you want to do when drawing text is to pick a text style. In the Properties box on the left, click the drop-down and choose a 1/4-inch Arial. This will be our font and our text style. You can always edit this, duplicate it, and create a new one if you want. On the right side of the ribbon is your formats for your text, how you want your text aligned, justified, and if bold, italic, or underlined. Next, to start placing our text, simply just left-click somewhere on the screen, set your formats, such as underline and maybe not bold, and then simply start to type your text. In this case, I'm just typing the word elevation. When I'm done typing my text, simply click Modify. This places our text within our drafting view. So as a review, in this lesson, we looked at creating annotation for our detail views, or drafting views. That annotation could be dimensions, and those dimensions could be a variety of different types: linear, angular, diameter, radial, arc length. We also looked at creating text and placing the text, and also formatting the text with a different font. Also, how would you want to justify it, and if you want it to be bold, italic, or underlined. In this lesson, we'll cover saving drafting views. So currently we're looking at a drafting view where we created the drafting view and then we created the detail, the lines, and the other elements, shading, the text, the dimensions within this drafting view. Currently this drafting view is part of this actual project for Revit. Maybe this is a typical drafting view that you could use in other projects. So it would be nice to actually save this as a separate file that I could later on import into another project. So the method to do that is saving a drafting view. To do that, let's browse in our project browser in the lower left down to the drafting views detail area. Here you can see the vent through roof detail is the one we're currently looking at. If you want to save this, all you have to do is select the view name, right-click your mouse, and then select Save to New File. This will open a window asking you what you want to name this new file. Also, where do you want to save this? By default, it'll come up to the US Imperial location. You can pick your desktop or another destination wherever you choose to actually save this. Give the actual file a name. Notice it's also a Revit project file, And then all you have to do is click Save, and it saves this as a detail view. Recommendation would be is to have a library folder somewhere on your network or your local computer where you can actually store these different details. So as a review, in this lesson, we looked at saving drafting views for later use within other projects. In this lesson, we'll cover detailing in 3D. So the example we're looking at right now is actually a detail in 3D, where we actually have a detailed view of three-dimensional elements, in this case your HVAC system, and then we added details, text, or dimensions to the view. So how do we go about adding this three-dimensional view for details? Well, the first thing you want to do is actually create a three-dimensional view. You can use the three-dimensional view you already have, simply duplicate it, and then we can make it a detailed view. The one we're going to use for this example is the typical room WSHP. So let's go ahead and double click on that view. And it'll open up the typical view for this cropped three-dimensional view. Now, you can just simply change it in this lesson, but what I would do is duplicate the view for your own purposes if you were to actually do this in your project, renaming that view to a detail view. First, what we want to do is hide some things. We don't necessarily need to see all of the architectural details, so we can simply hide these elements within this view. One method is to just select an element, right-click, choose Hide in View, Category. This will hide these elements within the current view. And you can repeat the process for the different elements that you currently see, such as the walls, doors, windows, even different system elements, like your piping. Maybe I do not want to see my piping, so I can hide this within the view. Another method would be to create a view template and assign the view template to this view that already has these elements hidden. We're going to create a view template from what we just did. Now, once you have this view set, orient it to the position where you want it by rotating the actual view. Now, right now, it's still a 3D view, and you cannot create annotation in a 3D view. On the view bar at the very bottom, there's a little house. And if you move your mouse over the house, it actually says Unlock 3D View. However, if you click the house, you're presented with three options. Of the three options, only one is active. That option says Save Orientation and Lock View. Technically, what that does is it does what it says. It locks the view in its current position, but by doing so, it enables you to draw 3D annotation, or annotation, if you will, for detailing on this view. So let's click Save Orientation and Lock View. So now the little lock is locked on the house. The view is locked, so I cannot rotate it or change position. Now let's go to the Annotate tab. On the Annotate tab now, the commands for annotation within the 3D view are available. And when I add my text or notes, those text or notes become parallel to my screen. So for example, let's click Text. And on the right, let's do a call out with two segments. So go ahead and click that. It will then ask you to click your point where you want to place the call out, or in this case, the arrowhead. I'm just going to choose a place on the duct. Drag my mouse to make the one segment, a little more to make the second segment, and then it's going to prompt me to key in what text I want to key in. For this example, I'm just going to type duct. When I'm done, click Modify. And I can repeat the process again, creating again another text element with an arrow with two segments. Maybe I'll place this one off the diffuser. I'll put the diffuser, drag out, drag again, and then I can type in my text for what I'm actually keying in. Again, when I'm done, click Modify. And you can continue to repeat the process by adding additional text with arrows, without arrows, dimensions, or other elements that you want to add from your detail and annotation view. So as a review, in this lesson, we looked at creating detail in 3D views. We first started out by creating a 3D view or reusing a 3D view. Within that 3D view, we hid elements that we don't want to see. Recommendation would be to apply a view template or to make a view template with those elements hidden. Once we have everything hidden except for what we wanted to see, in this case our HVAC system, we actually selected to freeze the view and its orientation. That actually will keep it locked in its position, but also enable us to create annotation or detail text within the view. That could be text, text with arrows, or other detail elements within this view. In this lesson, we'll cover importing detail views from a master file. This project we're working on, this Revit model, you can see we have a multitude of various different types of views for different disciplines. You can scroll up and down in your project browser and be able to view those. But one thing that we don't have are detail views. And we want to use typical detail views that have already been created. Well, one thing you can do is you can actually save all of your detail views to one Revit file. Call it the master detail project, if you will. And what we can do then is load the detail views from that project into this project. You can also do the same thing with schedules. So to load in detail views from this master Revit project file, let's go to the Insert tab on your Revit. Now, since we're going to insert in views from a file, on the Insert ribbon in the middle of Import, I'm going to click the Insert from File dropdown. I'll then choose to insert views from file. What Revit will then ask me to do is browse to where this master Revit project of specifically detail views exists. In this case, let's browse to the actual directory that houses the lessons for this course. On my computer, I saved it on the C drive, Learning Revit MEP 2015, and then we're in Chapter 17. And then what I'll do is select the Master Details file. Click Open. What it will then do is display a new window showing me all of the details and schedules that we could import in from that Master Revit file into this project. And I can see I have two detail views. One is the vent through roof detail view, and the other is the condensate drain detail view. And I can import both of those into my actual Revit project that I currently have open. I can also import in schedules and reports or other things that we could save to that master file. So let's select the two drafting views. With both selected, click OK. This will then import those drafting views in, and if you look at your project browser in the lower left, it'll create a new group, tagging those as mechanical, and now I have the actual two detail views brought in from that master Revit file. So as a review, what we looked at in this lesson was importing detail views. We looked at creating a master Revit project that would house all of your detail views, and then being able to import in those detail views from that master Revit project to the current project you're working on. In this lesson, we'll cover creating legends. So a legend could be symbols, callouts, abbreviations, or other type of information that you want to spell out within your actual set of drawings. For example, I'm looking at a diffuser legend that shows me the actual diffuser symbols and the text to the right of the symbol defining what those diffuser symbols are. If you scroll in your project browser down to legends, you'll see examples of the other types of legends. There's one for abbreviations. If you double click it, I see the abbreviations. I have one for piping symbols, one for valves, HVAC duct types. Let's go back to the diffuser legend. So let's say we wanted to create this legend. How do we go about that? Well, first, we need to create a legend view. To do that, let's go to the View tab on your ribbon, and in the Create panel, I'll have a Legends dropdown. Click that dropdown and choose Legend. Revit will now ask you to name this new legend and set its scale. For this example, I'm going to leave the name at Legend 1 and the scale at 1 to 50. Click OK. Now I have a blank canvas, and what I need to do now is insert in text and also those symbols that we saw on the previous legend. So let's insert the symbols first. So to do that, let's go to the Annotate tab on your ribbon. Once on the Annotate tab, in the Component dropdown, click Legend Component. Once you click the Legend component, you may be holding a symbol that was used previously or the first one in the list. If you look at your options bar, you have a drop-down on the left displaying all of the different types of components that are used within this project. This is where I can select the symbol that I want to use within this legend. So in this case here, I'm just going to simply select the first one, the exhaust grill. And now I'm holding that symbol, and all I have to do is left click to place it. I can change the drop down to another symbol. In this case, I'm going to select the supply diffuser, and I can zoom in or out and place this one. Once I'm done placing, simply click Modify to view what you've placed. And you always can move these and realign these using your normal modify tools within Revit. The next step would be to add text. This is very similar to a detail view or a drafting view. Again, go to the Annotate tab on the text panel, click Text. First thing you want to do is verify your text style on the left. For this, I'm going to make the legend title. So I'm going to select 1/4 inch Arial. I'm going to verify the format is just text with no leader, and then I'll click where I would like the actual legend title to be. I'm also going to change the format at this point to include underline, and then I could type in the legend title. In this example, I'm just going to call it legend. Click Modify. Now I have, right now, a legend with its title and 2 symbols. If I wanted to add text to the right of the symbols depicting what they are, simply repeat the text command. So click Text, set your properties on the left for the text size. I'll choose an 1/8 inch Arial. In this example here, I'm going to use the 1 segment text with a leader. Now Revit's going to prompt me to pick where you want your leader to start. So I'll pick, drag my mouse to make the extension line, pick again, and it's asking for my text. And I could type in the actual name of this symbol. In this case, I'm just typing return. Click Modify. And I can repeat text again with the leader, the location of where I'm placing the leader, dragging the extension line, and then typing in the actual text that I want to key in this case, supply. And then click Modify to add the command. And you can keep adding additional symbols and or text in your actual legend. So as a review, what we covered in this lesson was legends. We looked at creating a legend view, and then we looked at creating the components of a legend, symbols, and text.